Throughout human history, we've had a unique relationship with the idea of pets. From wolves turned into dogs, to falcons perched on a hunter's arms, to goldfish circling the same plastic castle. Pets serve many roles. Companions, workers, symbols of status, or simply something to care for. But every pet, no matter how exotic, exists within a narrow set of requirements for the individual. Its size needs to be manageable, it needs to be safe enough not to end up putting you into a game over screen, social enough to tolerate your presence, and ideally has the personality and behavioural traits that suit a home environment. That brings us to a question that could not shake. If dinosaurs were brought back from extinction, could the average population have dinosaurs as pets? And if so, which ones? But excitement rarely survives contact with reality, because most dinosaurs, spectacular as they were, would make absolutely awful pets. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us get into this. I reckon I could assume what most of you viewers would think of when you think of a pet dinosaur. You would likely think of the big hitters. You know them as well as I do: Tyrannosaurus rex, Spinosaurus, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, and possibly even the sauropods. However, this de-extinction scenario is not a Disney movie where you can make friends with any creature. There are a whole lot of factors that go into what makes a good pet to begin with, let alone if one is large enough to purposely eat or stomp on you. I mean, required space, diet, trainability, and personality are all important factors. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I know that I am not even close to being rich enough to afford half of the requirements for a single lion, let alone a T.rex. Something like Tyrannosaurus rex would need to consume over 100 kilograms of meat per day, need kilometers of land to roam across, and would still eat you given the opportunity. And that is only T.rex. We don't even need to touch on the requirements for a single sauropod. Am I saying that there is zero scenarios where some sort of bond could form between a large dinosaur and a human? Well, no. I mean, we see today that people can grow close bonds with elephants, rhinos, bears, big cats, birds, and even crocodilians. However, I am tackling this from the angle of the average person, so unfortunately, no medium to large dinosaurs allowed. So what is the actual criteria for a prehistoric pet that you could live with and not just dream about? Well, I think the most important thing to cover is having a solid limit on the potential size of our prehistoric pets. I think a good cap-off area would be around 100 kilograms or 220 pounds. That's about the weight of the largest dogs, and that is already pushing it considering normal people aren't just having emus, cassowaries, and ostriches as pets. Anything bigger starts needing reinforced enclosures, professional feeding setups, and the kind of money that most of us don't have unless we're running a prehistoric zoo. If it takes up more space than your couch, well, it's going to be off the list. Next, we have space requirements. Not every small animal is automatically low maintenance. Some species need massive ranges to stay mentally and physically healthy. Think of border collies. Sure, they fit in your house, but if they don't get enough exercise, your couch will become a chew toy and your walls get remodeled. This stimulation goes for almost all pets, including birds and reptiles. Now apply that to fast-moving, high-energy dinosaurs that evolved to sprint across floodplains or zip through dense undergrowth. Suddenly, you're not just dealing with a pet, you're dealing with an understimulated animal. Then we have their diets. On paper, herbivores seem like the better choice, right? Sure, until you realize that some of them probably need a good chunk of vegetation daily, which in this scenario would be quite pricey, considering they did not just evolve for consuming modern flora. If your cute little pet needs a field's worth of ferns just to stay fed, you're going to have a problem. Carnivores can also be difficult for many people. Feeding raw meat every day, that's not just expensive, it's risky, especially when your pet's instincts say food is food. Still, I don't think that diets are the biggest issue, especially considering the weight limits we have in place. Behavior is another big one. Is it solitary or social, territorial or passive, predator or prey? Some dinosaurs might tolerate being around humans, while others might lash out the second you step into their bubble. And then there's trainability. Can it learn commands, recognize you, not panic when a phone rings or a car goes by? If not, then what are you doing? You're just babysitting a wild animal. So yeah, the criteria is stacking up fast. Here's our rough checklist though. Under 100 kilograms or 220 pounds in weight, modest space needs, non-difficult diet, tolerant or social behavior, moderate to high intelligence, not aggressive to humans, and trainable or at the very least manageable. So that might sound strict, but here's the fun part. Not all dinosaurs are thrown out the window. In fact, there are quite a few that could genuinely make the cut. Small, quirky, and weirdly plausible prehistoric pets. Ones you could imagine actually living alongside you. Ones that with continuous exposure would not run away from you or just try and eat your cat. Think about it. We already keep modern birds and reptiles as pets. two groups that are the closest we have to dinosaurs. Parrots can learn words, recognize their owners, and respond to commands. Monitor lizards can even be trained to come when caught and recognize their owners. Even chickens have been shown to remember faces, solve basic puzzles, and form social bonds with humans. So if we can apply this same logic to their Mesozoic relatives, it's not a stretch to think that many small manageable dinosaurs could be trainable, sociable, and possibly even affectionate under the right conditions. Obviously, listing every plausible dino pet candidate would take a couple videos on its own, so for now, I'm sticking to my top 4 personal picks. Dinosaurs that strike the right balance between manageable size, tolerant behavior, and just enough weirdness to be the ultimate prehistoric companion. And remember, this is all just speculation, and I'm playing devil's advocate quite a bit when it's coming to the behavior. Anyways, let's take a closer look. Let's start with what's most probably the most underrated candidate on the list, but a predicted one to all my Isle players. This being the small quirky ceratopsian that could actually thrive in a backyard setup. This being the Psittacosaurus. Measuring 2 meters or 6.5 feet from head to tail, weighing around 20 kilograms or 44 pounds, this small herbivore would likely have had an adaptable diet. It would have probably lived in small groups and would likely not have been overly aggressive, making it a calm and manageable companion. While it may not have been the most intelligent or interactive pet around, its hardy nature and low maintenance lifestyle make it ideal for beginner dino keepers. A proper enclosure would need tall fencing with dig-proof bases and enrichment like logs, rocks, and foraging ties to keep it stimulated. Keeping more than one could encourage natural herd behaviors and ultimately would improve its well-being. The risk factor here would be rather low, at worst a nip from its beak if provoked, but nothing too dangerous. This dog-sized ceratopsian might not be the flashiest pet, but it could be one of the most realistic. It's small, hardy, and low maintenance, with a diet you can manage with a specific garden. Its beaked face and bristled tail give it a prehistoric charm. If you have a secure backyard and a love for quirky creatures, Psittacosaurus might just be your prehistoric match. Then we go into the next one, which I am quite hesitant to add, but hey, we can't have the entire list being dinosaurs that couldn't hurt a fly. We have Protoeratops. Protoeratops measured around 1.8 meters or 6 feet in length and weighed in at around 80 kilograms or 176 pounds, making it the heaviest entry on this list. Its diet would be self-explanatory as a herbivore, and his behavior would likely have been quite mellow, unflashy, but a dependable dinosaur that wouldn't mind a quiet corner of your backyard. Its overall temperament makes it an appealing candidate for a prehistoric pet. While not aggressive, its size and strength should not be underestimated. This is a creature you would not want stepping on your foot. Its bite was adapted for crushing fibrous plants. This could cause real injury if mishandled and likely result in broken bones. So this dinosaur would be best suited for confident and experienced handlers. Think of this as the bulldog of the dinosaur world. It won't do tricks or bounce off the walls, but it won't destroy your garden out of spite or escape through the fence in a panic. In terms of care, you will need a fenced off yard or paddock with some shaded areas and a soft patch of ground to lie on. Though it doesn't need to climb, it would still require areas to dig in order to create burrows. While it could technically be kept solo, if raised with plenty of attention and care, it would likely thrive better with at least one other member of its species. You'd also need large feeding areas, and undoubtedly this one would be the most expensive on the list. All in all, while Protoeratops is a potential candidate, this would be recommended to those who are more experienced in taking care of larger animals. Now, if herbivores or omnivores aren't your style, then I think Microaptor would make a good choice. Small, sleek, and armed with 4 wings, it's halfway between a house cat and a falcon. Microaptor was a tiny 4-winged dinosaur measuring around 1 meter or 3.3 feet in length and weighing in at just 2 kilograms or 4.4 pounds. As a small carnivore, it likely fed on insects, small mammals, and perhaps even fish. With its sleek form and feathered limbs, Microaptor probably spent a great deal of time in the trees, but I will say that hesitantly because of the great discourse that is always going on with it, though I do see it quite possibly being solitary, preferring to keep to itself rather than interact with others of its own kind. Its main appeal as a pet would be its striking appearance and unique locomotion. While there's still great debate amongst paleontologists about whether it truly flew or merely glided, one thing is clear: Microaptor would absolutely need vertical space. An aviary-style enclosure, or at least an aviary-style section of a room with plenty of height, sturdy perches, and a netted ceiling would be essential to prevent escapes and to satisfy its natural instincts. This dinosaur's personality might not be the friendliest, likely moody and possibly territorial, but its small size means the danger it it poses is minimal. While it has teeth sharp enough to scratch or nib if provoked, the risks are no worse than you might expect from a house cat or feisty lizard. Thick gloves could be utilized during feeding and cleaning. Speaking of feeding, a meat-based diet would be necessary, and a water feature or small fish tank could offer additional enrichment. Microaptor might not want cuddles, but if you're looking for a visually stunning prehistoric theropod to observe and care for, it might be the perfect, albeit slightly temperamental, companion. Now we're on to our last pick. Small, sleek, and built like a prehistoric greyhound, Gasperinosaurus offers a unique blend of charm and energy. If you ever wanted a dinosaur that's halfway between a rabbit and a lizard, this might just be your pick. Measuring about 1 meter long or 3.3 feet and weighing in at around 13 kilograms or 29 pounds, Gasperinosaurus was a herbivore that likely lived in social groups and had a sharp awareness of its surroundings, traits that today would translate into a pet that's alert, social, and constantly on the move. Its perks are clear. This dinosaur is light, quick, and almost certainly full of personality. After getting used to you, it would likely not be overly aggressive and would pose minimal danger to humans, more likely to dash away rather than lash out. However, that liveliness could come with some caveats. Gasperinosaurus would need plenty of space to run, jump, and explore. A screened-in yard would be essential. If you had it indoors, then you might even need to give it a giant hamster wheel. While as with many of our picks, it could survive solo with the right care, it would likely have improved well-being if it was housed with a small group of them. Its skittishness could be a challenge at first, but with patience, consistent interactions, and raising it from young, it might grow into a curious and trusting companion. Overall, Gasperinosaurus might be one of the best candidates for a prehistoric pet. It's fast, quirky, and full of life. Not a cuddle bug, but let's be honest, if you're getting a dinosaur, I don't think you're looking for that. Instead, being an endlessly entertaining presence for active owners who enjoy the companionship of unusual creatures. So, could you have a dinosaur as a pet? Surprisingly, it seems so, at least in theory. That opens the door wide for dinosaurs to make the cut as plausible prehistoric pets, not just as curiosities, but as true companions. The dinosaurs we've looked at today aren't apex predators or thunderous titans, they're the scrappy survivors, the kind of animals you could share your backyard with, if not a living room. They offer a glimpse into what life may have been like if the asteroid missed, or if our worlds just overlapped a little bit more. Obviously, this is just the start. There are dozens of species that could qualify with the right environment and temperament, but that's a list for another time. For now, let's appreciate the line between prehistoric beast and beloved pet might be thinner than we think. And with that, we've reached the end of the video, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll catch you on the next video. See ya.